Thank you, everybody, so much. I was supposed to be here last year, and then my mother had an accident and a lot of aftermath, and I couldn't get away. She's doing much better now, and so I'm very happy to be here. I was getting a little bit of the information from Juniper about the history here at this university, that there was a Gay People's Union student group in 1971. That's amazing, 1971. That you started celebrating LGBTQ plus History Month 20 years ago. That's incredible. I've always, during History Month, I Google, LGBT History Month to see what's going on, and I've always been aware that here at this university you were doing things. And to look at what was up here a moment ago, 27 events during this October here on this one university campus is just amazing. And Paulette Kirkin, I know you've done extraordinary work here. I came across an article a week or so ago about the renaming, and then Juniper reminded me of it again today, and everything you've done. It takes all of us in every place, in every location, moving the conversation forward, trying to open up the discussion. And you've done an extraordinary job here, obviously, to have the center named for you. That's incredible, isn't it? Okay, so I'm happy to be here, absolutely thrilled about it. I had an almost 2-hour drive here from my home in southern Missouri, and it was a beautiful day. The trees aren't at their peak yet, but they were very nice to look at, and the sky was blue. So I had a great drive down here, and I'm very happy and grateful that all of you are here. 30 years ago this month, on the evening of October 3rd, 1994, a few dozen University of Missouri St. Louis students gathered in a smaller auditorium than this to inaugurate a film festival. That film festival was the first ever series of events organized for what we then called Lesbian and Gay History Month on the campus of the University of Missouri St. Louis. 10 films were screened on 4 successive Monday nights on that campus. Among the selections were 7 documentaries: Portrait of Jason, Word Is Out, Before Stonewall, Silent Pioneers, Common Threads, West Coast Crones, and Framing Lesbian Fashion. 3 feature films were also screened that month: Parting Glances, The Killing of Sister George, and the closing night special, The Boys in the Band. With the full support of Professor Gerda Ray, who was my mentor, and that a professor that we all want, the one who opens our minds to see the world in a different way, the one who introduces us to a different kind of understanding, in this case, of American history. She was fully supportive and served as my mentor during that time period. And what we were doing that night, October 3rd, 1994, was what we hoped in successive years would catch on at other colleges and universities and secondary schools and community groups and mainstream community groups. We did not imagine in 1994 that eventually the Missouri History Museum would organize a 6,000 square feet exhibit to LGBTQ St. Louis regional history. It's there now. I mentioned it to Juniper a minute ago. Has anyone been to the Gateway to Pride exhibit? Okay, it's wonderful, right? You've got to get up to St. Louis, go to the Missouri History Museum in Forest Park, see the Gateway to Pride exhibit. But we had no idea that something like this exhibit would ever be possible in 1994. Of course, all of our history months exist because someone's history was left out and someone felt compelled to make things right. In the United States, for example, the very first History Month, the origin of all history months in the entire world, began in 1926. It was called Negro History Week. Then, Black History Month, African American History Month. Now, and this man, Dr. Carter Woodson, who was the son of formerly enslaved mother and a formerly enslaved father, was a historian and a scholar, and his lifelong mission was writing African Americans into the narrative. That record of events that up to his time, and still quite a bit today, was dominated by white people, white stories, and white institutions. Dr. Woodson was the second African American to earn a PhD at Harvard University. His own mind had been revolutionized and empowered by studying and learning African American history. And so he spent his entire life publicizing that history, speaking to the transformative power that comes with a full awareness and understanding of the history of one's people, one's group, of those who identify as one does. He believed, Dr. Woodson believed, that knowing the events that preceded one's birth sets the mind free and liberates the spirit. Frankly, as you know, Black American history in the United States 100 years ago did not occupy space in the minds of white people or in the academy. Our institutions were too burdened by myopic worldviews and racist hearts. Black history didn't exist in the minds of many Black Americans either. Along with names and languages and religions and cultures and families obliterated by the slave trade, history was also lost. Dr. Woodson wanted to change all of that. And toward that end, in 1915, he co-founded the Association for the Study of Negro History and Life, now called the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. And in 1916, he began publishing a journal of Black history, pushing his way into the world of academic thought. A decade later, 1926, Dr. Woodson and his associates founded, then called Negro History Week, as a time of intentional reflection on Black history. He placed the commemoration in February to coincide with the February birthdays of the great formerly enslaved abolitionist and mesmerizing orator, Frederick Douglass, and the emancipator president, Abraham Lincoln. It is not a coincidence that Dr. Woodson founded Black History Month the year after his 1922 textbook, The Negro in Our History, was banned in 1925 from a Black school in Oklahoma by the white school board that exercised authority over all of the schools in the district. Dr. Woodson believed that every human being has a fundamental right to access to the totality of history, including their own. As he wrote in 1933, the conditions of today have been determined by what has taken place in the past. And in a careful study of this history, we may see more clearly, I love this line, the great theater of events in which the Negro has played a part. Black History Week, then Black History Month, remained a week-long commemoration for decades. These images, for example, are from the mid-1940s, with President Truman's 1946 endorsement of that year's Black History Month, 2 years before Truman inaugurated the Armed Forces of the United States, and almost 20 years before the United States Congress passed the Civil Rights and Voting Rights Acts. Woodson's Black Studies Association, his books, his scholarly journal, and his celebration became avenues through which the omissions and gaps in the historical record of the United States could be partially rectified, primarily for the empowerment of African Americans and secondarily for the education of white people. As the 20th century progressed, particularly after World War II, a wave of righteous unrest arose among many marginalized groups all over the world. Colonial yokes were thrown off. Second-class citizens demanded first-class standing. Multiple civil rights movements were born. Previously unstudied groups began to demand inclusion in the classroom, in textbooks, in governments, in museums. And one identity group after another adopted and adapted Dr. Carter Woodson's original idea and the belief that their history, similarly, is equal to the majority's. And these newly awakened groups began to form history months. For example, in 1968, Latinos living in California founded National Hispanic Heritage Week. A few years later, Asian and Pacific Islander Americans inaugurated their own Heritage Month. The first Women's History Week was organized in 1978 in California. Indigenous groups in the United States in 1986 claimed November as Native American Heritage Month. Many others have done likewise, placing their own history on the calendar, jostling their way into the conversation about personal, group, and national identities, challenging the view that history is mostly or only white or male or straight or cisgender or Christian, and calling out narrow academic instruction as social and educational malpractice. 30 years ago, I was a young teacher. As you saw, I was also an out teacher. Thanks to Professor Ray, I was working on LGBTQ St. Louis history, writing about the founding of MCC St. Louis and its first pastor, Carol Curitin, who is profiled, by the way, in that Gateway to Pride exhibit at the Missouri History Museum. Many hours were spent in archives and libraries and doing oral histories as I was writing the piece that eventually, on the far right, would be published by the Missouri Historical Society. It was not easy. The editor and Professor Ray worked very closely with me to make sure it was just right, that there was nothing in that article that could be objected to, because it was the first time the Missouri Historical Society had published anything about LGBTQ history. A whole new world in 1994 was before my eyes, but that world was nowhere near the classroom where I taught American history in suburban St. Louis. My textbook, for example, 800 pages, had everything about the history of the United States, from the indigenous to the Cold War confrontation with the Soviet Union, but it did not have any queer people. We did not exist in that 800-page textbook. We were not part of that story. My scribbled margin note from 1994 was all we got in that textbook. Even though during those early years of my career in education, the world outside my classroom was spinning with breaking LGBTQ news practically every day. Ryan White, Alan Schindler, Another March on Washington, Marriage Equality, Don't Ask, Don't Tell, the film Philadelphia, AIDS, Pedro Zamora, electoral politics, and a decade that saw, quote, entertainment come out of the closet. But that was outside my classroom and outside almost all classrooms in 1994. Stinging from being written out of my textbook and the context that history brings to contemporary conversations, while the world was throwing one LGBTQ story and controversy at me and at everyone else practically every day, in January of 1994, I sent a letter to all then known queer organizations in the United States, writing of my desire to declare that October 1994 as then called Lesbian and Gay History Month. I selected October because it's in the academic year, because it was the month of both the first and second marches on Washington, and because October 11th had been designated National Coming Out Day in 1988. October made sense for a new history month, and endorsements to the idea, which I had been seeking in sending out that letter, began to roll in. A national coordinating committee of highly capable and energetic activists was organized, one of whom was my friend John Du Bois from college. She was the president of the then called Gay and Lesbian Student Association on the campus of Southeast Missouri State University at Cape Girardeau. We gathered resources, bibliographies, essays, activity recommendations, created a curriculum packet, all of this being done very quickly and before we had internet and email. I didn't even have an email address until after that very first History Month. I remember being towed onto AOL by a friend of mine in November 1994. There was controversy, of course. One conservative Indiana congressman on the floor of the United States House of Representatives shouted that parents should scream bloody murder about this new History Month. And the head of a conservative women's group wrote to her followers that every Christian parent in America will view this official observance of homosexuality as a direct assault on innocent, unsuspecting children. But the idea survived the hysteria. 30 years later, LGBTQ+ History Month USA is a well-established mainstream community occasion. Last October, Syracuse University put 25 History Month events on their university's calendar. Equality Forum, since 2006, has recognized 558 queer icons, 31 every October for 18 years. You can do a search there, by the way, and you can search by state, like Illinois, Missouri, by profession, by orientation. LGBTQ Nation, a well-regarded online news and information site for the community, has published hundreds of queer history stories on their website since 2011. The theme is Reclaiming Queer History. They've been doing that since 2011. And now I'm going to read this to you as though I'm not here, as though I'm somewhere else. And Southern Illinois University at Carbondale for 20 years has observed LGBTQ History Month, and this year has 27 events planned.
Woo!
I think that probably is a record. 27 events. I've not seen any university with 27 events. Syracuse has 25, but you have them beat by 2. In time, LGBTQ History Months were founded elsewhere. In 2005, Sue Saunders in the United Kingdom co-founded the second LGBTQ History Month in the world. I was on a Zoom call with Sue and others this morning at 3 a.m. our time. We meet quarterly, and this just happened to be the bad time for me in regard to when it would start. During the following 2 decades, History Month spread to include 20 locations around the world. In the fall of 2021, emerging out of email conversations with the co-founders of History Month Italy, the International Committee on LGBTQ plus History Months was founded. That's the group that met this morning. ICOM's first meeting was held in January of 2022. This morning's meeting was our 12th. We meet quarterly. We encourage the creation of more history months all over the world. We were happy to see Uganda emerge as the 19th History Month in 2022, and we were thrilled to be of some help when the Queer Archives of New Zealand in July of this year, 2024, organized their first Queer History Month, the 20th in the world. Everyone on the International Committee is now excited about the prospects of new history months next year in Brazil, Venezuela, and Spain. And I heard this morning from representatives from Spain, and indeed they are a go for a new history month in Spain in 2025. ICOM, our group, we are historians, teachers, activists, documentarians, and archivists within the LGBTQ communities of our respective homelands. We believe the world is better, stronger, wiser, more whole, more loving, when everyone's history has a place of honor in the academy, in culture, in museums, and in our memories. These ones from around the world are magnificent advocates for peace, justice, education, and equality. And I am thrilled and thankful to have gotten to know them and to call them my friends. History months, precisely as Dr. Carter Woodson planned it in 1926, hand a megaphone to precious stories. Knowing history makes us smarter and stronger, more secure in our own beings and in our own personalities. History gifts young people a narrative in which they themselves can walk, a story in which they can write their own chapters. It gives young people a foundation, a boost, a shoulder from which to see their lives as part of an endless stream of humanity, not an isolated occurrence around which the world spins. History months are a vocal insistence that we won't be silent again. They are a firm assertion that every human being has a fundamental right, a human right, to their history, to their stories, to their people. And I am happy tonight to be with you as we honor our collective past, as we reclaim queer history. Thank you. That's cool. Do that again. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Now, I would like to open up the floor. It's always good to get up. You know, I tell my students, I'm still teaching full time. I tell my students, if you get tired, that's okay. Stand up. Go over to the side. Do some exercises. It's not a problem. It's not a sin to get sleepy. I said I would get sleepy if I weren't standing up here and being animated. So I'm glad you got to stand up. Anyway, any Q&A, any questions and answers that you would like, I'm happy to take them before we distribute all of those bags to 10 people who can answer a question correctly. Any question? Yes.
You said you still teach?
Yes, I am still teaching full-time, but now I teach at a community college. I teach American History 2. I'm the chair of the department, and I decided I don't want to teach American History 1 anymore. I have done it for so long, and I can't say, well, I'm going to say it. I can't say the word pilgrim anymore. I can't talk about Andrew Jackson anymore. I can't go through all that history again. So now I'm teaching American History 2. So we start at Reconstruction right after the Civil War, but I really concentrate on the 20th century. And I teach world religions. Who, what, when, where, why of world religions. And I don't know, I'm thinking I'll continue for a few more years. I'll be 60 in January, so I've got 5 years to Medicare.
Amen.
Maybe I'll just wait until 65 as long as everything's all right. Yeah, do you have a follow-up?
When you said that you focus more on the 20th century, I always got annoyed in my history classes where it seemed like you start at the Pilgrims and then you go to the Civil War, and then it's like, okay, class is over.
Yeah.
Everything else you don't got to know about because you already know it.
Yes, I agree and experience the same thing, and I won't do that because I think students are more interested in all of that stuff that happened after World War II.
Yeah.
50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. That history is better able to contextualize their lives, help them understand current events, what's happening. I think it's really important. And I was born in 1965, so I lived through, the 70s, 80s, as a conscious being, so I can bring my own experiences and memories to it. So I agree with you. Yeah. Yes.
So what did you think the fallout was going to be from coming out in your class?
Well, I didn't know for sure. I was aware then that LGBTQ people are not allowed to teach openly, generally. I grew up with that. I had vague memories of Anita Bryant, 1977, the Briggs Initiative, 1978. I didn't think I could be a teacher early in my life, actually, though I love to learn and I love to tell what I've learned, which is to teach. I didn't think I could be. At that point, though, I was out everywhere in my life, except on the job, except to the colleagues and the students. And I felt absolutely compelled that I could only integrate my entire being and personality, if I'm an honest person, everywhere. So I took the risk. I received a call from the woman who wrote the Riverfront Times cover story, Taboo Teaching. I received a call, would you like to have a conversation? My attorney, I was represented by a Missouri NEA, Missouri National Education Association attorney. That was very helpful. She said, don't do it. Attorneys always say, don't say anything. But I felt it was important that there be a conversation and that I contribute to the conversation, that we talk about this issue, that we bring this issue out of the closet, really. And then there was a spiral, from that point. Somehow Dateline NBC in New York got the story, and then it went from there. But I think all of that actually protected me, because the school board, I wasn't a tenured teacher at the time. It was only my 4th year teaching, and you had to do 5 in Missouri to be granted tenure. They knew that if they were to fire me, which I thought would be catastrophic, not for me, for every LGBTQ student and teacher in that district. So I felt a real responsibility to survive that with my job intact, with tenure being granted. But the school district knew that if they did fire me, there were eyes watching, media eyes, and I think that was helpful, because they knew that they couldn't do it in darkness, because there were people with lights, literally, on the subject. Yes?
Hello, sir. I have a question about the permission of the LGBT people in America. And as I know that in the past, some of the state was permitted and some of the state was forbidden. And I just don't know now the situation was like.
And I beg your pardon, I'm at an age now where I've lost certain frequencies. I believe you were talking about marriage?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe I won't address exactly what you asked, but you are right. We cobbled together marriage rights over many years. I remember in 1994, I didn't think there would ever be same-sex marriage, but it took a long time to cobble that together. When I was born in Missouri in 1965, black and white people were not allowed to marry. That didn't happen until 1967, Loving versus Virginia, a Supreme Court case. I always tell my students that, because they think that racism was 500 years ago. I say, no, when I was born, and I'm not a million years old, black and white people could not marry in the state of Missouri. So yes, we had to cobble it together in terms of equal marriage rights, and it took the Supreme Court case, of course, in 2015, about 9 years ago now, took the Supreme Court once again, the way they had in 1967 with the Loving case, to say American citizens have a fundamental constitutional right to marry the person of their choice. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Yes?
How did your students react, and were you approached by students, coming out to you?
The student reaction was generally, I didn't hear it, or it was positive. I mean, I had some things happen, like someone yell a pejorative at me, outside. I had someone put under my door the verses, the clever verses from Romans chapter 1 in German, from a German Bible of all things. So I had a few things like that. I had someone write, a pejorative on a piece of paper and just leave it in the classroom. But generally, it was neutral to positive. I did have some students then come out. I remember once actually opening my door at the end of the day, and there was this young man with red hair sitting next to the lockers. Didn't even know who he was. He wasn't one of my students. But he came in and, he's gay and he wanted to talk about that. So it did happen. Yes?
I know a lot of us in here are advocates, activists, teachers, educators to old and new parts of the queer community. And with, each generation that comes, I think fear is always a staple part that does stall, spreading and education and even, allowing people to, enjoy the love that this community can give. Is there any piece of advice that you think you would be able to give, especially for this younger generation coming in, that may give some solace, maybe not ease the fight, but at least give them a boost?
Well, fear is a motivating factor for sure. But when you said that, I went back to April 3rd, 1968. Dr. Martin Luther King was in Memphis, Tennessee, a sanitation workers' strike. You've probably seen some of the images. I am a man. And he gave that speech where he said, I'm not fearing any man. And he says, I may not get there with you to the mountaintop, but I've looked over, I've seen the promised land. You have to decide not to walk in fear the best you can. But if you do something when you're afraid, that makes you brave. If you do something and you're not afraid, that's not bravery. It's still a good thing, but it's not bravery because you're not feeling fear inside. So I would say when you feel fear, that's okay. Do it afraid. That makes you brave. And do what you can bit by bit, and it takes a long time for us to train our brains. Do what you can, though, bit by bit, to not have so much fear. Now, it can be hard when all of these adults in all of these state houses across the country, particularly in southern and more Midwestern and Western conservative states, all these adults are talking about you. Can you imagine? That makes it so harmful what they're doing. To have adults discussing you, discussing your life, it's really hideous, but it's been happening. We've had about 600 proposed pieces of legislation in the last couple of years, most targeting now transgender young people. They're not coming after almost 60-year-old white gay men. They're coming after people they perceive to be weak. And young people can be weaker than a 60-year-old because they haven't yet developed all of the resources to stand against a tidal wave of accusations and misinformation. So it's devastating. There was a study recently came out in those states that passed anti-transgender legislation. There was, in some cases, a 72% increase in attempted suicide among transgender young people. So you're seeing cause, effect playing out right there. And for some reason, they're blind to it. But try not to be afraid. And if you are afraid, do it anyway. Okay, let's do one more. Oh, yeah.
So I've got kind of a two-part question. So when you came out, how did that look for you back in whatever year that was? Like, did your parents accept you, family members accept you, community members? Also, you stated that you studied religion, and have you found any correlation between homosexuality and religions that you study?
Okay, big questions. I told my mother in May 1991, when I was 26, during a phone call. I had my first boyfriend, and I wanted her to know. I wanted her to be part of my life. So I remember saying that, Mom, I want you to be part of my life. My mother and I are very close. She lives with me now because of her health problems. And I told her, and she said, son, I've known for years. Yeah. And then we ended the conversation. She called me then in the middle of the morning, like 3 a.m. or something, and she was crying because, she'd had time to absorb it. And, we have to give our parents grace when we tell them things. We really do. It took me 26 years to accept, and then I want my mother or father in 26 seconds to accept, have grace for them, especially if they're older, because they've been set in their ways for a long time. But she called me crying, primarily concerned about HIV and AIDS, because this was 1991, 10 years into the epidemic. But she quickly, recovered, and, she's been my biggest supporter now. My dad took a little longer. He was born in 1944, rural Missouri, 8th grade education. I never saw him read a book in his life or in my life. So, he was a rough and tough country man who did physical labor. And it took him about 6 months, I think. I don't know if deep down he ever completely, absolutely understood all of this. And I think he'd be really confounded today because now we've learned so much more and we've grown so much. He's not living now, but so yeah. Now, in regard to religion, I was born with a religious orientation. My family did not take me to church. I would get up on Sunday mornings. I'd be the first one up in the house. I would watch, believe it or not, Jerry Falwell, the Old Time Gospel Hour. I would walk down the street to a Southern Baptist church that I could walk to. Mom would have left a quarter out for me for the offering. I loved it. It was interesting to me. I felt good about it. I always felt really good, after going to church. So I was born that way, really, with a religious orientation. And I embraced it fully. I was one of these young born-again types, and I read the Bible. I did it all, really, truly. But over time, I was not happy with what I saw. I did not like that I was not accepted, of course. I think that religious discrimination is the worst kind because you're claiming that God is on your side. I think it's the most hurtful and harmful kind of prejudice, that which is based in your belief that your religion is superior to others. These days, I'm a hopeful, agnostic-y type. I do hope when I close my eyes the last time, I wake up somewhere, sometime, just to check in at least. But I don't know that. So yeah, there's a fundamental conservatism in a lot of religion. And much of religion is dominated in terms of the hierarchy by men who have, it seems to me, a slightly more of a tendency to want to control and impose their views. And God in these religions generally is male. Therefore, you've got this patriarchal system, and women suffer. Women are excluded. So, yeah, it's an issue. And I'm always thrilled when I find liberal-minded spiritual people. I'm really thrilled by that. And I think, obviously, that's the future. Not hard, harsh, hateful spirituality and religion, but that which sets a seat at the table for everyone, that which is warm, welcoming, advances love, peace, generosity, and acceptance. One more, and then we're going to do trivia. Yes?
Yes, I have a question. So, nice to see you.
You too.
I had to beg Jennifer to get you here. Yes, I did. So, when I don't know if you want to call it you coming out or this or whatever. Well, when everything happened 30 years ago, you said that luckily the media was involved because if they weren't, that could have played a different role. So I just got my master's in professional media communication studies. Okay, stop. No. Okay. So with that, I mean, I studied my research paper was on Black masculinity and how that affects Black men in the musical media. So you say you think the media worked in your favor, at least for you not being fired from your job. Do you also think it probably had a negative, maybe also a negative standpoint since we were just coming out of the AIDS epidemic and stuff like that? So how do you view the media of the situation then, now, since it's 30 years after that?
Well, generally, I am very disappointed in today's media, although there's really good media out there. But I feel a disappointment that it's weak. It doesn't get to the heart of issues. It doesn't hold people accountable. It allows, in my view, wrong-headed, dangerous people to have a platform. It's about clicks and eyeballs more than the dispersal of information and education. I think it was better 30 years ago, but it was a whole different world then, wasn't it? You know, a whole different world. So maybe we're going through an evolutionary process with media and it will wise up and wake up. I think we have a particular presidential candidate right now who is a creation of a media system that allowed him to pull wool over people's eyes. But I do think it was helpful for me to have the media there just because there was a light on the situation. And I remember one reporter, and I sort of thought it was inappropriate because I do think reporters should try to be objective, as teachers should be. I remember one reporter saying to me, I talked to my sister before we did the interview. I talked to my sister about this. She's a teacher, and she said, you really should try wait till you're tenured, that sort of thing, before you say more. So she was on my side, obviously, and the story was reflective of that, though not in an overt way. So I think they were generally on the right side at that time, and I think they still are on that particular issue. But let's hope, and you can be part of this, let's hope for an evolution in media that makes it smarter and wiser and helps lift up and educate. We have in this country right now, 54% of our adults cannot read on a 6th grade level equivalency. This is so dangerous. The media can help with that. Yes, you're welcome. Okay, so we want trivia. All right, here we go. Now, I'm going to give a question. I have 11 of them. We have 10 bags down there. So I think if we get all 10, then the last one will just be a bonus, right?
Yes.
And if you get the answer, now I think we should just have the first person who knows the answer shout it out, right?
Yes.
Yeah, just shout it out, okay? And if two shout out at the same time, you can be the judge as to who was maybe slightly first.
Uh-oh, I want to get my eyes on it.
I know. Okay, here we go. The series Heartstopper is based on a graphic novel by Alice Oseman. It explores young British lives. It's beautiful. I wish I had had that upbringing. Including LGBTQ+. The third series, or season, premiered this month on Netflix. The question. In season 2, the series follows the students as they take a 3-episode field trip to which city?
Paris.
Okay, I think right here in the middle maybe it was first. You got it.
I cried in season 3.
I've not seen season 3 yet. Yes.
It's a lot.
No spoilers. No spoilers, please.
Number 2. The original 1978 Gilbert Baker pride flag is at the top right. The traditional pride flag, used about 79 forward, is at the center right. The bottom right flag was designed in 2018 by non-binary American designer Daniel Quasar, with the purple circle intersex flag element added in 2021. Those are the facts. The question. What is the name of that bottom flag?
Progress Pride Flag?
Progress Pride Flag. You got it. Number 3.
I love that photo.
Marcia P. Johnson was born in 1945 in New Jersey. She was among the early advocates of the Gay Liberation Front, and with her friend Sylvia Rivera, she co-founded the radical activist group Street Transvestite Action Revolutionaries, STAR. I love the names they give to groups in the 60s and 70s. And in the 1980s, she became an AIDS activist with ACT UP. She died, likely murdered, in New York City in 1992. There are the facts. Here's the question. I love her sign, Power to the People. What did her middle initial P stand for? Pay it no mind. Yes. Very good. People were worried, pay it no mind. People were curious. Now, where were you born? What was your, all the kind of thing. Pay it no mind. I love it. Next one, number 4. He was born in Germany in 1892. He immigrated to the United States in 1913. In 1924, in Chicago, he founded the first known LGBTQ civil rights organization in the United States, which lasted 1 year before his arrest for deviancy. His name is Henry Gerber. There's a library in Chicago, Gerber Hart Library and Archive. Here's the question. What was the name of his organization 100 years ago?
Starts with a C, right?
What?
Does it start with a C?
No, an S.
Oh.
4 words.
We
Well-
know he was a postal worker.
What?
He was a postal worker.
Yes, that's right. He sure
Yeah.
was. Yep. Okay, so this one will be missed, but we still have plenty for okay. The Society for Human Rights. Can you imagine? 100 years ago. Only lasted about a year, but it was registered with the state of Illinois. Number 5. Now, no one can miss the rest of these, or we'll end up with extra bags. Number 5. He was born in Indiana in 1982. He finished high school as valedictorian. He studied at Harvard and Oxford. He was elected mayor of South Bend, Indiana in 2011. He was deployed in Afghanistan in 2014 as a Navy reservist. He is married and is the father of 2 children. He's the first openly gay member of a presidential cabinet. His name is Pete Buttigieg. Question. Which executive office does he head? Transportation. You got it. Yep. I hope I live to see him as president.
Yes.
Yes.
Wouldn't he be wonderful?
Yes.
Not because he's gay. No, because he's smart. He's kind. He's decent.
Empathy.
Empathy. Number 6.
And I'd love to see how his husband decorated the way.
Yes, that would be something. And Chasten doesn't take anything from anyone. I follow him on Twitter, and he calls people out.
He's good.
Number 6. The Ladder, a lesbian review, was the publication of the first lesbian rights organization in the United States, founded in San Francisco in 1955. What was the name of this organization?
Daughters of Bilitis.
You got it. Now, I want to just draw attention for a second to the woman pictured there, Ernestine Eckstein, maybe Eckstein, 1941 to 92. And I'm going to show you a picture where she's the lone African-American woman at the 1965 LGBTQ picket at the White House. Can you imagine? There she is. A woman, lesbian, African-American, outside the White House, picketing, 1965, the year I was born. That's courage. The question about fear, I'm sure she was afraid many times, but she did. Next one. Barack Obama served as president from January 2009 to January 2017. This is the White House in 2015. Why is it lit up in rainbow colors?
Same-sex marriage.
Okay, Juniper, you're going to have to figure that one out. It was Pride Month, you're right, but this was specifically for the same-sex marriage. Number 8. This is Sally Ride. She was born in 1951 in California. She died in 2012, pancreatic cancer at 61. Her obituary publicly revealed for the first time that she was lesbian and had been with her partner for 27 years. Question. In 1983, she became the first American woman to do what?
Go to space.
Oh, that was a tie. I don't even know who the other person was. Who were the two people who tied? Who has? You won one, right? Did you win anything yet?
I think
Or who did? Neither of you has won.
that was so dead on, and we're one behind it.
All right, there we go. Two Russian cosmonaut women had flown in space prior, but she was the first American woman and the youngest American at the time to fly in space. And there she is. Number 9. The Supreme Court of the United States in the 2003 decision, Lawrence v. Texas, ruled that all sexual relations between consenting adults is legal. At the time of this ruling, 14 states still criminalize certain types of sexual relations, including homosexuality. There's the fact. Here's the question. The first state to decriminalize... You're a fast reader. Yeah, Illinois. Wow, 1962. Yep.
You know, I can't think, who was the justice that wrote that decision?
It's a good question.
He died on vacation. That's how we got the one guy on there now.
You mean Antonin Scalia?
Yeah, Scalia.
Oh, I don't think he would have written that
Did he
one.
write that? I thought they said
No.
he wrote that.
Maybe Blackman or Brennan, but not.
I'm sure Scalia.
Can one of you young people Google who was the lead author of the Lawrence versus Texas case? We need to know. Okay.
I thought somebody said Scalia did it.
No, he would have been opposed. Yeah. Number 10. Randy Shilts was born in 1951. He was the first openly gay reporter at the San Francisco Chronicle. He died of AIDS-related illnesses in 1994. This new book, which I just finished reading, this new book by Michael Lee is about Shilts' life. The question, name one of Randy Shilts.
And the band
Plays on.
You were first?
No,
Oh, who was it?
playing with him.
And the band
Oh.
played on.
There we go.
Serving the silence.
There they are. The Mayor of Castro Street about Harvey Milk, and the band played on about the AIDS crisis and Conduct Unbecoming, which he published just a few months before his death in February of 1994. Who wrote it?
Wikipedia says Justice Anthony Kennedy.
Anthony Kennedy. That makes sense. Yeah. All right, now, are we out of gifts?
Out of gifts.
Well,
This one's
we'll
for
do
bragging
the
rights.
final one, even though we're out of gifts. You'll just get glory if you get it right. The first LGBTQ plus History Month was founded in the United States in 1994. How many queer history months around? What?
20.
Boy, you're a fast reader. New Zealand was the 20th and the last one so far this July. That is the independence. Thank you, everybody. It was a lot of fun.
I can still use it here. You can go to the bookstore and you can get back your teacher. Yeah, I mean, you can use that shit whether you're a student or not.
All right. Thank you so much, Rodney. That was wonderful. So I haven't taken a peek outside. I'm 99% sure there should be food out there. Okay. Great. Okay. Awesome. So we're going to have at that. We're going to talk. We're going to mingle. We're going to mix. And yeah, digest what we heard and meet amongst some of the really awesome. I'm noticing like different corners of the community coming in together. So, take this opportunity to get a little social, right? And thank you and happy LGBTQ plus History Month.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your work,
Thank you.
organizing our great LGBTQ.
It's a lot of work.
Thank you. Thank you. And I didn't know 27 was the number for the events that you were talking about.
Yes, I always count things. It's one of my quirks.